If you are anything like me, you have probably spent the last few weeks,
Or the last few days, really.
right? Or days just endlessly scrolling through your news feed.
Hitting refresh.
Exactly, just hitting refresh on your screens and trying to make sense of the absolute whirlwind happening across the globe right now.
It is a lot to process.
It really is. And look, you are a curious person. You want to understand the mechanics of the world you live in. But let's be honest, the sheer volume of information dropping right now,
It's staggering.
staggering. The scale of the headlines dominating every single screen on the planet is completely overwhelming.
Yeah, you are likely trying to process a news cycle that feels less like journalism and more like a daily tectonic shift.
That is exactly why we are here today. We are going straight to the epicenter.
Precisely. Because the noise out there is deafening.
So loud.
And it is incredibly easy to get lost in the sensationalism. You know, the endless social media commentary and the sheer panic of the 24-hour news cycle.
Right, the panic is everywhere.
It is. So our goal today is to strip all of that away. We are not here to read you the headlines you've already seen.
You can get that anywhere.
Exactly. We are going to look at the foundational architecture of what is actually happening. We are examining a specific, massive set of documents.
The ones everyone is talking about.
Yes, a collection that has been summarized under a rather chilling title in the source material we are reviewing.
The banned files. The secrets of the rich that shook the world.
That's the one. We are going to take the scattered pieces of this puzzle, slow down the pace, and analyze the core facts behind the Epstein secret files that have just opened to the public.
Right now.
Right now in this current month of January 2026.
So our mission in this deep dive is to cut through that deafening noise and extract the actual insights.
We have to.
We want you to understand not just who is falling from grace, but why the entire global power structure is suddenly looking so incredibly fragile.
Because it is fragile.
It is. Because when you look at the raw facts of the situation, it honestly feels like someone pitched a wildly unrealistic Hollywood thriller.
It really does read like fiction.
I mean, it has all the tropes, right? A mysterious billionaire with no discernible source of income.
An exotic private island.
Dark secrets.
The entire global elite compromised.
A mysterious death in a highly secured and locked cell.
And a ticking time bomb of documents that finally detonates years later.
It sounds totally made up. But the most staggering part of this entire scenario is that it is absolutely 100% real.
Unfolding in real time.
Right before our eyes.
And it is the stark reality of these events that makes unpacking them so incredibly critical right now.
Why is that?
Well, when reality mirrors a thriller, our natural psychological defense mechanism is to either tune it out as too absurd to be true.
Like denial.
Right, denial. Or to become completely consumed by the paranoia of it all.
Which is what we're seeing online right now.
Exactly. But as you mentioned, this isn't a movie. The consequences are not confined to a screen or a paperback novel. The structural integrity of global trust is actively being tested.
And in many places, it is failing.
Failing spectacularly. By grounding ourselves in the documented facts of these unsealed files, we can move past the initial shock value.
And start to actually understand it.
Yes, to truly understand the architecture of this specific brand of power, we have to treat this not as a spectacle, but as a forensic examination.
An examination of how leverage operates at the absolute highest echelons of human society.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the explosion that is happening right now in January 2026, we have to understand the bomb maker.
The architect.
Right, we have to look at the background of the man at the absolute center of this storm, Jeffrey Epstein.
According to the source material we have, he was an American billionaire.
But right out of the gate, we hit a massive glaring anomaly that I think most people completely gloss over.
The wealth itself.
Yes, the absolute origin of his wealth is a complete mystery.
Blank slate.
Completely. No one knows how he actually amassed his fortune. And yet, he had enough liquid capital to own a private island in the Virgin Islands.
Our source notes the island's name begins with Thai.
Right. And this is where we need to pause and really analyze the concept of mysterious wealth.
Especially in the modern era.
Right, because we live in an age of hyper-documentation.
We do. If you look at the billionaires of the late 20th and 21st centuries, their wealth almost always has a highly visible, highly traceable corporate origin story.
Everybody knows where the money came from.
Right. We know the famous startup founders who started in their dorm rooms or garages
We know the heirs to massive retail or industrial empires.
or pharmaceutical empires. We know the hedge fund managers, the private equity titans, and their specific, heavily regulated marketplace.
Wealth of that magnitude leaves a massive paper trail.
It has to. It leaves a footprint in the public markets and venture capital circles, in SEC filings, or in probate courts.
You simply do not magically manifest $1 billion in the modern banking system without leaving a wake.
You really don't.
But wait, hold on, though. Couldn't someone just be a really, really quiet investor?
How do you mean?
Like a guy who bought a ton of obscure real estate in the 80s and just sat on it. Why is it so impossible for a billionaire to just fly under the radar?
It's not impossible to be private, but it is statistically anomalous to be a blank slate at that specific level of wealth and consumption.
Okay, let's break that down.
Let's look at the asset you just mentioned,
Yeah.
a private island in the Virgin Islands.
Right, the one starting with Thai.
When an individual possesses assets as massive and capital-intensive as an island, it requires a staggering amount of liquidity
Just to buy it.
and ongoing financial maintenance. An island is not just a real estate purchase.
No.
No, it is a complex infrastructure project. You are talking about desalination plants for fresh water.
Because you can't just tap into a city water main.
Exactly. You need independent power grids running on imported diesel fuel.
Undersea fiber optic cables for secure communications.
A fleet of private maritime vessels.
Boats, just to get basic supplies there.
Right. Aviation fuel for helicopters.
And a small army of staff.
And private security.
Right, so it's not like buying a mansion in Beverly Hills where the city handles the plumbing and the power lines.
Not at all.
You are essentially building and funding a micronation. That has to cost millions of dollars a year just in operational overhead.
Let alone the initial purchase price. Precisely. It requires continuous, massive capital injection.
So to maintain an asset like that without a publicly understood financial engine,
Without a flagship company or a massive transparent investment portfolio generating that yield,
or even a recognizable corporate board,
it raises immediate and severe red flags for anyone who understands global finance.
it forces us to ask some really uncomfortable questions.
Like, if the money didn't come from the traditional regulated avenues of commerce, where did it come from?
And how do you pass KYC?
Know your customer loss.
Right? How do you pass KYC at major international banks when your stated profession is essentially just wealthy guy?
That is the million-dollar, or I guess billion-dollar question.
And honestly, it feels like the kind of thing the IRS or international banking regulators usually sniff out in about 5 minutes.
They absolutely do.
So if the source of the wealth is unknown, what does that imply about the networks he operated in?
Well, to gather that kind of money completely off the radar, you aren't just selling enterprise software or flipping commercial real estate.
No, you have to be dealing in something entirely different.
Something hidden. What's fascinating here is that mysterious wealth often indicates a currency that isn't just financial.
What do you mean by that?
It strongly hints at the trading of influence, access, or secrets.
Secrets as currency.
Yes. Money in the traditional sense is a medium of exchange for goods and services. But when the origin of the money is completely obscured, we have to consider that the individual is operating in a shadow economy.
Where the goods being traded are highly unconventional. Are you talking about blackmail? Or something more subtle?
It's a spectrum. They might be trading introductions between powerful people who cannot be seen meeting in public.
Like a dark matchmaker.
Right. They might be brokering sovereign wealth deals that bypass traditional diplomatic channels.
Off-the-books diplomacy.
Or most ominously, they might be accumulating capital as a byproduct of leverage.
Leverage.
In this context, wealth is not the ultimate goal. Wealth is the camouflage.
Wow, wealth is the camouflage. That's a profound way to look at it.
The real currency is control. By appearing as a billionaire, he gained access to the rooms where other billionaires and heads of state congregate.
So the money was just the cover charge.
The money was merely the ticket of admission to the most exclusive club on earth.
That is such a wild concept to wrap your head around. It makes the whole mystery so tangible.
Because we are so used to the alternative.
Right, we are so used to the highly publicized, heavily PR-managed origin stories of tech moguls and real estate tycoons.
They write autobiographies about how they made their first million.
They go on talk shows to talk about their morning routines.
Exactly.
And then you have this figure, an absolute ghost in the financial machine, who somehow acquires an island fortress called Thai in the Virgin Islands.
And nobody can point to the factory or the algorithm that paid for it?
It's like he just spawned into the world with maxed out financial stats.
And that lack of a genesis story should have been the primary warning sign for everyone who associated with him.
A massive red flag.
When someone's wealth has no visible foundation, it usually means the foundation is built on something society has deemed illegal, immoral, or at the very least, highly classified.
It is genuinely fascinating and honestly deeply unsettling when you think about what had to be traded in the dark to build that kind of empire.
It is.
But as the source material makes terrifyingly clear, his financial wealth was only one part of his portfolio.
The private island was just the staging ground.
Which brings us to the true currency he dealt in. The thing that is actually causing the geopolitical earthquake right now.
Leverage.
Leverage.
The transition from financial capital to leverage is the key to understanding the sheer scale of the crisis unfolding today.
Because the documents reveal that Epstein held the secrets of the most powerful people in the world.
And the source material categorizes this network into 4 distinct pillars.
Politicians, kings, billionaires, and artists.
We need to systematically burrow down why this specific combination of categories is so incredibly potent.
It's not just random.
Not at all. It is not just a random assortment of famous people you might see at a gala. It represents a comprehensive, terrifying monopoly on human influence.
Let's do that, because when I first read those 4 categories, politicians, kings, billionaires, artists, it struck me that this isn't just a fancy Rolodex.
No.
This is a complete cross-section of how our world is run. It's like he was collecting the 4 infinity stones of modern society.
That's an apt comparison.
Let's look at the intersection of these groups rather than just what they do in a vacuum.
Okay.
How does leveraging a politician, for instance, connect to the rest of the board?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, possessing leverage over a Muller, politician is about securing a backdoor into the machinery of the state.
The actual gears of government.
Right. Politicians draft the laws, they appoint the judges, they control the regulatory agencies, and negotiate international treaties.
They meet the rules.
But a politician's power is inherently precarious. It relies on public approval and campaign funding.
They need to win elections.
This is where the intersection happens. If you control a politician, you can offer regulatory favors to a billionaire.
Okay.
If you control a billionaire, you can direct their dark money super PACs to keep your compromised politician in office.
Okay, so it's a self-sustaining loop.
Exactly a loop.
The billionaire funds the politician. The politician deregulates the billionaire's industry.
Yep.
And the guy holding the secrets acts as the toll booth operator between the two.
Precisely. But it goes deeper. The source mentions kings.
Right.
Which, in a modern context, represents sovereign, historical, and untouchable geopolitical power.
Because politicians come and go with election cycles. Their power is temporary.
Kings, or sovereign leaders and royal families, represent continuous wealth and deep-seated cultural authority that completely bypasses democratic processes.
You can't vote out a king.
No, you cannot. In many parts of the world, sovereign leaders operate with total legal immunity.
Right. A king doesn't have to worry about a midterm election.
Exactly.
If you compromise a king, you aren't just controlling a voting bloc. You are controlling a nation's entire sovereign wealth fund.
You are controlling state-owned oil companies.
You are controlling multi-generational, unauditable power.
Precisely. To hold leverage over a king is to hold leverage over a nation's identity and its multi-generational wealth.
That's terrifying.
Now imagine you hold the secrets of a Middle Eastern or European royal, an American senator on the Foreign Relations Committee, and a Wall Street billionaire.
You no longer just have a network.
You have a private shadow government.
A shadow government.
You can dictate foreign policy, allocate capital, and ensure legal immunity for your operations, all without ever running for office or filing a public disclosure.
That really frames the billionaire category differently, too.
How so?
When the source talks about billionaires, it's not just about guys with big yachts. It's about market dominance.
Yes.
These are the individuals who allocate global resources, control massive global supply chains, fund cutting-edge research and development.
And often own the massive media conglomerates that distribute our daily information.
That last point is crucial.
It is. By compromising billionaires who own media empires or major social media platforms, the network gains access to the information arteries of the planet.
So they control what we see and what we don't see.
It means being able to suppress negative stories, amplify specific narratives, or manipulate public markets all through the invisible thread of a hidden secret.
Okay, so you have the laws via the politicians.
Yes.
You have the historical sovereignty via the kings.
Right.
And you have the money in the media via the billionaires.
Okay.
But the fourth category mentioned in the source material, artists, that is the one that really caught me off guard
That
initially.
surprises a lot of people.
Why are artists, actors, or musicians grouped in with kings and billionaires? It feels like one of these things is not like the others.
It might seem incongruous at first glance, but it is arguably the most insidious category of the four.
Really. More insidious than the politicians.
Yes. Artists, which in this context encompasses globally recognized entertainers, cultural icons, thought leaders, and major public intellectuals, represent cultural influence and public adoration.
Adoration. People love them.
Exactly. Politicians, kings, and billionaires operate on authority, force, and wealth.
Hard power.
But artists operate on trust, parasocial relationships, and emotional connection.
Soft power. I think I see where you're going with this.
They shape the zeitgeist.
They tell society what is acceptable, what is fashionable, what causes are righteous, and what we should care about.
Exactly. Millions of people look to artists for moral and cultural guidance way more than they look to their local congressman.
So if you compromise the artists, you compromise the culture itself.
Precisely. Let's look at a hypothetical scenario to illustrate how these four pillars interact under the pressure of blackmail.
Okay, paint me a picture.
Imagine a highly compromised billionaire needs to pass a deeply unpopular piece of environmental deregulation to save his company billions.
Okay, so he goes to the politician.
Right. The compromised politician is willing to sneak the provision into a larger bill, but they are terrified of public backlash.
Because it's an unpopular bill.
Exactly. So where does the artist come in?
The distraction.
The central figure holding the leverage, our architect, activates the compromised artist.
Wow.
Suddenly, a globally beloved cultural icon begins championing a seemingly unrelated, highly emotional social cause.
Dominating the news cycle.
The media owned by the compromised billionaire amplifies the artist's cause endlessly.
And the public is completely focused on the cultural debate.
While the public is entirely distracted, the politician quietly passes the deregulation bill unnoticed.
Everyone gets what they need.
The public is none the wiser, and the man holding the secrets tightens his grip on all of them.
Wow. When you lay it out like that, it's a masterclass in total societal capture.
It is a closed-loop system.
It's not just blackmail. It's an integrated system of global management. You have the lawmakers, the sovereigns, the financiers, and the culture makers all dancing to a tune that the public can't even hear.
And the concept of a single individual holding leverage over all of these pillars of human society simultaneously is truly unprecedented.
Because historically, we rely on checks and balances.
Right. The press is supposed to hold politicians accountable.
The culture is supposed to critique wealth.
But all of those safeguards are completely neutralized because everyone is tied to the same hidden anchor.
The closest historical parallel we have to this kind of systematic compromise is perhaps J. Edgar Hoover.
The former director of the FBI.
Right, who famously kept secret files on politicians, activists, and celebrities to maintain his power.
But there is a massive fundamental difference here. Hoover was a state actor. He utilized the taxpayer-funded machinery of a federal intelligence agency to gather his leverage.
Right, Hoover had agents, wiretaps, and government authority.
This guy did it entirely in the private sector.
The privatization of global compromise.
Exactly. He utilized private jets, private islands, and private wealth to build a honeypot network that rivaled or exceeded state intelligence agencies.
And because he was a private citizen, he was not subject to congressional oversight.
No FOIA requests or constitutional constraints. It is the ultimate evolution of shadow power.
To put that into perspective for you listening right now, imagine a massive high-stakes casino being played across multiple private rooms.
Good analogy.
In one room, they are playing for the laws of a nation. In another, they are playing for the global economy. In a third, they are playing for the minds and hearts of the culture.
All separate games.
Now imagine one single person walking the halls between these rooms, and they secretly hold the ultimate trump card for every single high roller at every single table.
They don't even have to sit down and play the game.
Just the threat of showing their hand means they dictate who wins, who loses, and what the rules are.
That is the kind of dynamic we are talking about here. That is a highly accurate way to visualize it.
It's terrifying.
And it naturally leads to a profound exploration of the psychology of power.
How so?
Well, how does the dynamic of global leadership change when the people at the top are compromised by a single man?
We assume our leaders possess agency.
We do. When a leader makes a decision, whether it is a politician signing a bill, a billionaire making an acquisition, or an artist choosing to champion a specific cause, we assume they are doing so based on their ideology, the needs of their constituents, or their shareholders.
But if that leader is acting out of terror of a secret being exposed, their decisions are no longer their own.
No.
They're essentially a meat puppet for the person holding the leverage.
Yes. The entire global system becomes fundamentally distorted.
Decisions are made not for the public good,
Not for market efficiency,
and not for artistic integrity.
but solely for the preservation of the secret.
The psychology of the compromised leader is one of perpetual anxiety and vulnerability.
Hidden behind a carefully manicured mask of public authority.
Every public speech, every corporate merger, every legislative vote must be viewed through the lens of,
Is this done willingly or was this done under duress?
which means the world we have been living in, the decisions we have been watching unfold on the news for the last 20 years, might have been influenced by strings we couldn't even see.
It's highly probable.
It makes you want to go back and look at every major geopolitical event of the last 2 decades with a red string and a corkboard.
You're not the only one feeling that way.
But holding that much power, being the singular centralized vault for the darkest secrets of the most powerful people on Earth, is incredibly dangerous.
You cannot hold the world hostage without becoming the biggest target on the planet.
And that leads us directly to the sudden jarring climax of his story.
Yes. The architect of this network, the man who held the strings, met a very abrupt and highly controversial end.
According to the files, after gathering these incredible secrets, Epstein mysteriously died in his jail cell.
Just like that.
Just like that. The man with all the leverage, the guy holding the entire house of cards together, is suddenly gone.
And let's be real, mysteriously died is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
A lot.
We must critically analyze the why and the how behind the mystery of this death.
Let us examine the environment first.
A high-security jail cell. Specifically, a special housing unit or a cell designated for high-profile inmates on constant watch.
That is, by definition, a hyper-controlled environment.
It is an architecture designed specifically to strip away an individual's autonomy, weaponize isolation, and subject them to constant overlapping systems of monitoring and restriction.
Right. It's not like he was out on the street or in a secluded alleyway.
Or even in his own home where a break-in could happen.
He was in the one place where the state is supposed to have absolute unavoidable control over your physical well-being.
Exactly. When a mysterious death occurs in a highly controlled environment like that, it inherently breeds massive public skepticism, and rightly so.
Because institutions like federal prisons have deeply ingrained redundant protocols.
They have guards who do scheduled rounds.
They have multiple closed-circuit camera systems.
They have administrative logs.
So for an inmate of that specific profile to die unobserved, it requires the simultaneous failure of all these independent fail-safe.
The statistical probability of the cameras malfunctioning, the guards failing to do their rounds, and the administrative oversight collapsing all at the exact same moment.
Specifically for the most high-value inmate in the system.
It defies basic logic.
It defies logic completely. It's almost comical if it weren't so dark.
Oh, the cameras in that one specific hallway happened to short out.
And the guards happened to fall asleep.
And the logs were mismanaged.
Right. Given the leverage he held over the aforementioned kings, politicians, and billionaires, the timing and location of his death are just impossible to view as a coincidence.
Highly impossible.
I mean, think about the irony. The man who supposedly knew everything, who built an empire on knowing exactly what happens behind closed doors, dies behind the ultimate closed door.
In a place where supposedly everything is recorded and monitored.
Yet, the circumstances remain a complete mystery.
This raises an important question, perhaps the most important question of the historical narrative.
What's that?
Does the deeply mysterious nature of his death actually validate the explosive nature of the secrets he was keeping?
I would say absolutely. It's the ultimate confirmation.
In many ways, yes, it is a resounding confirmation.
Because if he were merely a standard financial fraudster, a Ponzi scheme operator, or someone with a conventional list of white-collar crimes, There would be absolutely no institutional incentive for such a catastrophic systemic security failure.
None at all. No one risks an institutional scandal of that magnitude to silence a guy who merely cooked the books.
The fact that his death is shrouded in such extreme anomaly serves as a dark, undeniable validation of the source material's core premise.
It suggests that the threat he posed to the global elite was so severe, so immediate, and so existential that the normal rules of institutional custody and state preservation simply evaporated.
It's almost like the system short-circuited trying to contain him.
Like a virus.
Right, like he was a virus that the mainframe couldn't process, so the system just deleted the file and crashed itself to cover its tracks.
But here is the critical takeaway, the thing that brings us to the present day. His death did not bury the secrets.
It merely delayed them.
That is a crucial distinction that many analysts miss.
How so?
In a traditional kinetic power struggle, say a war or a mafia turf battle, eliminating the opponent eliminates the threat. You take out the boss, the family crumbles.
But when the weapon is pure information, the death of the holder does not destroy the data.
It merely changes the custodian.
Right, the data doesn't die with the brain. It lives on hard drives and safe deposit boxes and encrypted cloud servers.
Exactly. We are talking about the concept of a dead man's switch.
A mechanism designed to trigger if the operator is incapacitated.
By dying in a cell, whether by his own hand or otherwise, he was instantly transformed from a mortal man with physical vulnerabilities
Someone who could be interrogated, negotiated with, or intimidated.
into a lingering, untouchable myth. The secrets were no longer held by a person in a room.
They were locked in an abstract vault waiting to be unleashed.
He became a ghost hovering over the global elite, a permanent sword of Damocles hanging by a thread over the institutions of power.
That is such a vivid way to describe it. He went from being a guy you could theoretically cut a deal with in a courtroom to a ticking time bomb that no one knew how to defuse.
And for years, that bomb just sat there ticking in the background of global politics and culture.
Everyone wondering who had the files, when they would drop, and who was in them.
But the timer has finally run out.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we have to pivot from the mystery of the past to the immediate, urgent, and quite frankly, terrifying present.
The reckoning has arrived.
The source material explicitly states that years after his death, the files have been unsealed.
And it pinpoints the exact moment of detonation. Right now, in January 2026.
The secrets are out, the vault is open, and the documents specify a very particular, highly strategic method of revelation.
The names are dropping one by one, and it is actively shaking the world to its core.
Think about checking your newsfeed right now.
It's relentless.
You are sitting there having your morning coffee, scrolling through your phone, and suddenly you see another untouchable name fall.
A name you grew up trusting.
A name you enthusiastically voted for last election cycle.
A name whose movies you watch with your kids or whose products you buy every single day.
And the worst part is you know that tomorrow morning there will be another one.
It is a slow, agonizing process.
Why is it happening like this? Why not just dump the whole hard drive online in one go?
We need to deeply focus on the mechanics of this specific release strategy.
The drip feed.
The source explicitly specifies that the names are dropping one by one. We have to analyze the psychological impact of a drip feed release versus a massive single document dump.
Let's look at historical precedents, like the Panama Papers or the Pandora Papers.
Those were massive single-day document dumps. Millions of pages of financial secrets released all at once.
And what happened? People were outraged for about a week.
And then everyone got overwhelmed. They couldn't process the sheer volume of names.
And the news cycle just moved on to the next shiny object.
Yeah.
It was almost too much data to care about.
Precisely. If all the names and secrets from these banned files were released on a single day in one massive PDF or searchable database, the world would experience an acute, intense shock.
The media would scramble, the public would be outraged, but very quickly the sheer volume of information would cause a psychological saturation point.
The human brain can only process so much betrayal at once.
People would become numb to it.
The scandal would peak sharply and then begin to recede, allowing the implicated individuals to band together, form a unified PR defense, and weather the storm.
It would be like ripping off a Band-Aid. Painful, bloody, but over relatively quickly, and then the healing or the cover-up can begin.
But a drip feed dropping the names one by one, day after day over the course of January 2026 is a psychological torture device.
It weaponizes anticipation.
It is game theory applied to public relations. For the public, it creates a continuous rolling shockwave.
Every single day, brings a new revelation, a new betrayal of trust, a new breaking news alert.
It keeps the story at the absolute pinnacle of the global consciousness because the narrative is never fully
It
resolved.
is always developing.
You never reach the saturation point because the dose is perfectly measured to maintain maximum outrage.
It's like a serialized podcast of doom for the global elite.
A very dark podcast, yes.
And what about the people on the list? The ones whose names haven't dropped yet, but who know they went to the island? What is happening to them right now?
For the powerful, this slow trickle creates a state of prolonged, paralyzing terror.
It is the ultimate prisoner's dilemma.
If your name is in those files and you see your peers falling one by one Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
You are trapped in a state of suspended animation.
you don't know if your career, your legacy, your fortune, and your freedom will end tomorrow or next week or next month.
Do you resign preemptively?
Do you try to flee?
Do you turn on your former allies to cut a deal?
You can't even mount a defense because you don't know exactly what evidence is going to be released on your specific day.
Exactly. This paralysis at the top levels of society is exactly what the source means when it says this is shaking the world.
It is fundamentally destabilizing.
So what does this all mean for us? For the person listening to this right now, on their commute or while doing the dishes?
It's a vital question.
Because it is one thing to watch billionaires and politicians sweat on cable news. There's a certain amount of schadenfreude in that, sure.
Natural human reaction.
But how does this actually impact the day-to-day functioning of our world? Why should the average citizen care if a bunch of elites are playing a high-stakes game of musical chairs?
We must connect this to the bigger picture. How does a global society function when its leaders, its cultural icons, and its financial titans are being systematically exposed and removed from the board?
The fundamental currency of modern society is not the dollar.
It is trust.
We trust that our laws are made in relatively good faith.
We trust that our financial markets are somewhat rational and based on actual corporate performance.
We trust the cultural figures we elevate to reflect our shared values.
When you have a rolling, relentless exposure like the one happening this month, that foundational trust does not just crack.
It evaporates overnight.
So you're saying the gridlock isn't just a metaphor, it's an actual, tangible freeze on society.
Shaking the world in practice looks like total institutional gridlock.
Imagine a scenario where a massive, critical piece of infrastructure legislation is moving through a parliament or Congress, but suddenly 3 key committee chairs are named in the files.
The legislation dies instantly.
Politicians are too afraid to pass laws, make speeches, or even be seen in public lest their name drop the next morning.
And the financial markets.
The markets become violently volatile. Imagine a Fortune 500 company's stock dropping 20% in a single afternoon, not because of a bad earnings report, but simply because there's a rumor that the CEO's name might drop in tomorrow's batch of files.
Capital freezes.
Mergers are abandoned. Board members are staging emergency coups to oust compromised executives before the news hits.
And culturally, the narrative fractures. Movies are shelved, endorsement deals are canceled, and public figures go completely silent.
It is a systemic, catastrophic shock to the very scaffolding of global power. It is a real-time stress test of civilization's operating system.
It is a profound, incredibly sobering realization. What we are witnessing isn't just a gossip column on steroids or a massive celebrity scandal.
Far from it.
We are watching the unmasking of a shadow system that has operated alongside our visible world for decades.
The veil is literally being torn down in real time.
Let's briefly recap the incredible journey of this deep dive. We started with the enigma. An American billionaire with absolutely no traceable origin story for his wealth, who somehow builds a private island empire complete with its own infrastructure in the Virgin Islands.
He uses this isolated, off-the-grid fortress to collect the darkest, most damaging secrets of kings, politicians, artists, and billionaires.
He successfully acquires the ultimate leverage over the 4 central pillars of human society, creating a shadow government based entirely on blackmail.
Then the architect dies mysteriously in a maximum security jail cell, a death that defies all statistical probability and institutional logic.
Instantly transforming from a physical man into an untouchable myth and leaving behind a delayed explosive device of data.
And now years later, in January 2026, that device has detonated.
The banned files are open, the names are dropping one by one in a masterclass of psychological warfare.
And the resulting shock waves are tearing down the illusion of untouchable power across the globe, paralyzing institutions and destroying public trust.
And that is precisely why you, the listener, should care deeply about this. This isn't just about morbid curiosity watching the rich and famous fall or enjoying the chaos.
It is about fundamentally understanding the hidden scaffolding of the world you inhabit.
It is the jarring realization that the people making the world's most consequential decisions that directly affect your economy, your laws, your rights, and your culture were for a significant period of time secretly tethered to one man's hidden vault.
Understanding this mechanism of leverage is crucial for your own critical thinking.
It forces us to question the underlying motivations behind global events and to recognize that the public narrative we are fed is often just a shadow cast by much darker hidden truths operating out of sight.
It forces you to look at the news entirely differently.
When a politician abruptly changes a stance on a major bill, or a powerful CEO suddenly steps down to spend more time with their family, or a highly vocal cultural icon goes completely silent on social media, you now have a new, sharper lens through which to view those events.
You have to ask yourself, are they acting on their own accord, or is someone pulling a string?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We know your time is valuable, and taking the time to truly understand the core of today's most explosive, confusing issue is the absolute best way to armor yourself against the chaos of the current news cycle. We hope we've helped cut through the noise.
It has been a vital discussion. Knowledge, especially concerning the hidden mechanics of power and leverage, is only valuable when it is understood and applied to how you view the world.
Before we let you go, we want to leave you with a final lingering thought. Something for you to mull over as you inevitably check your phone and watch the rest of these names drop in the coming days and weeks.
A final perspective.
If a single man with a totally mysterious background and no traceable corporate origin could quietly accumulate enough secrets to hold kings, politicians, artists, and billionaires hostage for decades.
What does that say about the extreme fragility of the power structures we trust every single day?
And more importantly, as you watch the fallout of this one specific unsealed document, you have to ask yourself, are there other unseen vaults of secrets out there controlled by other ghosts on other islands that haven't been opened yet? Keep your eyes open.
Indeed. The world is rarely as it appears on the surface. Stay curious, question the narratives you're given, and always look for the hidden leverage.